to seek revenge. Highway robbery. So now I gotta get my highway robbery. So now I gotta get my
D-Lo Beats.
Bruce Lee the TX. Nah, it's me versus Warlock, and I get knocked or shot by your cop before your Glock goes pop. Let me edit the etiquette in your demonic contrast. Mommy couldn't Photoshop the sonogram, so now you live how you do, idolizing idols, the Tammuz. Into the dragon, created your reptilian suit. I skin a snake clean as if I was making a pair of Satan boots out of you. I'm fresh to death, wearing flesh on the move like armored troops. My arm is bulletproof, I'm a true homie to the youth. You harbor Lucifer's pursuit. Your screensaver fire pit is a perfect fit. My flying kick will situate your ash turns to crisp. My style's lit. If I ever get hit, tasting my blood will make me flip like I'm a real life walking kung fu flip. Hey yo, what's that mean? I'm someone who you don't wanna fuck with. I see you play with guns, but hell, let's have some fun, cause I can easily bait clips. Otherwise shut your lips or raise your fist. I gotta slap who didn't correctly raise this little son of a witch. Your rhythm ain't it, don't count me out. I haven't even got to the odds of the GX. Oh God, the blasphemy of this bastard child who represents the 6X, the 24th letter of the alphabet. 2 + 4 = 6. Genes, I'm expression. You speak as though you signed an oath within a sentence. My words expression like bringing an end to a generation of devilish rejects, which reflects the 666. Your purgatory sums to the son of another 6. Your chat sign is 999, as above so below, that's 666. Anyways, your bloodline is counterfeit, the design of a fallen being, and I don't see it being too angelic. I never be known to be jealous. You're stuck in a dimension where Greek's esoteric is legend. Your own image reflection bears your dark possession, possessed by taking pictures of you and your weapons. Your half-stepping false representation is my enjoyment of fakeness. You probably call your car a spaceship, which there's nothing luxurious about a Greyhound Express. You probably wish you could shapeshift. Stupid Pluto is the 9th planet X. Your shadow screams Satanist action of an actor acting panicked like the Baphomet you worship. I ban your coat, or I'm about to pull my coat from out my coat, sending G to the crossroads. Generic excellence is less value to God's pure gold. Your alias rings government exchange, where souls get sold for change. Listen up, Malcolm X. You're a dead representative of the CI Panther gang, operative claim and set. I heard G was in the trap, strapped to a computer glitch. I read the Ouija GXD code. Good luck with your future, kid. The apex is sin, so I equalize the script. Little Damien lives inside Demetrius. I got the files on all crime syndicates. My signature is sealed with my fingerprints. I'm a black belt who does more than just breaks bricks for chicks. I prey on corrupted politics, killer instincts of a praying mantis. Gee, I'm extraordinaire to a style beyond your summer solstice. I'm a whiz, tune in. My ripoponics, hydroponics, just like the hieroglyphs of Egyptian knowledge. You're no contest, so stop it. You're a zombie to my apocalypse. Your crusade is toxic. My overstanding outweighs your logic. Another mummified rapper talking that prophet nonsense. Keep talking and I'll send you with pockets. You're no angel, just a Lucifer Django without his halo. I took this to the Bermuda Triangle. I didn't have to try no other angles. I just won't dance with the devil. I'll leave him strangled on that net, tangled in the Black Widow's web. I'll engrave what's not sticking to your head. Your fan base will be amazed, son, like a Masonic pledge to the living dead. Your chaotic order is done. Nothing more exciting than exercising demons from outer Roman nun. Hey Saturn X, next time you try to rip the mic, spit it right. Don't speed your audio like you can rap at the speed of light. You're in hindsight. I'll take your cash prize, ninja vanish like thieves in the night. Bruce Leaf, and you know that is silent for those who fight opposite of what's violent. I'm here to set fire to all you burning sheep. Some of you motherfuckers will never wake up.
D-Lo Beats.
This is for all you brain dead sheep, ignoring war and peace. I set fire to the body stiff under the corner sheets. The autopsy reads another ignorant human being who got caught up in the crossfires of one who ain't afraid to speak. Play this till your eardrums bleed. I'll set all your masons free. I give a fuck in what you believe. Kick that nonsense to me. Round 1, you won't make it to C3, nor will you be able to receive your 33rd degree. All my killings come in the verse where many occur. I attack the eye of the all-seeing curse. Jesus is Zeus, then you must worship Lucifer's birth. And I disagree, it's written in red. The Jesuits are in order. Listen to Bruce Lee while smoking Sifu, Sensei, tell him about the owl and the OVO owl, but with no mathematical breakdown. How about the Moloch ceremony? My style you can't defeat. I'm far from ordinary. Opponents are scared to compete. Holding down my fort with force, the sword I swing. I'm the definition of a catastrophe. And here's a little slap, the best actor in your favorite bat rattle league. Give the kid his trophy, please, or I will have you smacked. The way I rock the planet in plain old fashion, I'm celebrated in March Madness. The sacred math belongs to my godly practice. The omni art I mastered. Your entertainment has your mental captured. A prisoner to Hollywood's caption. Lights, camera, action. The lavish movie magic is crucial. Harmful to those not protected from voodoo. I want a celebrity deathmatch with me against Manubo. My heights of achievement are beyond your reach, kid. I was born a genius. On the checkerboard I seldom box with cleaners. My technique is matched to Jimmy Woo's Kung Fu San who's teaching. I'm upset at your brain dead sheep who fell asleep in front of your TV set instead of spring cleaning. Only blood stains I'm leaving. Live on MREC I made a mess. PowerPoints that no one can test. Contestants, what's your testament? Keep testing. I've told one, I'll tell another. I'll send you where pockets. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's today's mathematics? Feed him the scoop. Hashtag fake news. Truthfully, the sheep don't want to know where the truth lives. And you can count on sheep following sheep. This is a war I can't win without a team. So be prepared for my army of black belts. We're here to send your legion back to hell. Otherwise I do it myself. Uncompromised radio, restoring order. Sign up if you want to help. Join the witch hunt, unveil the serpent's tail. Lead us to your dragon's lair so I can ring his doorbell. Tough talk ain't much from a cartoon character. A cemetery's where I bury ya. Worse than the corona, I'll cause mass hysteria. Only ninjas wear a mask, so that's we're not identified by your neighbor. Don't be a slave to the government's network. Dancing in a masquerade for your labor parade. I'm already juggling grenades, rhyming like a ticking time bomb. I stay calm. I can defuse a short fuse by adding fire to the fuel. Like my decodes, I move in silence, sounding off alarms. I'm immune to the violence. Hey yo, my firearms will be used for the tyrants, so come on and try it. Death grips, extra clips, I'm applying. The righteous angel gave me the angle on the occult science.
Don't fuck with me!
Freaks of nature? Well then, come on down to Captain Spaulding's Museum of Monsters and Madmen. Yeah, see the alligator boy. Ride my famous murder ride. Most of all, don't forget to take home some of my tasty fried chicken. Ha ha! It just tastes so damn good.
On May 1st, 1776, 5 men gathered around a table in Ingolstadt, Bavaria. Leading them was a local professor of canon law, the 28-year-old Adam Weishaupt. They gathered to inaugurate a new secret society, the Order of Perfectibilists. Its name soon changed to the Order of the Illuminati, or in German, the Illuminatenorden. The Order of the Enlightened. Its totem was the Owl of Minerva, or Athena, the ancient goddess of wisdom. Another symbol was a dot in a circle representing the all-seeing eye. Not the all-seeing eye of God, but of the mysterious, unknown superiors to whom the order answered. The day, May 1st, marked an ancient fertility festival, and it was the extension of the preceding Walpurgis Night, long associated with witchcraft and evil spirits. Weishaupt's tiny order had grand ambition. Their aim was to make men free and happy. But first, they had to make them good. Weishaupt envisioned nothing less than a world revolution that would result in a universal republic, a new world order. This necessitated destruction of Christianity and all other forms of religion. It also meant the annihilation of all governments. The new order would bring liberation from all social, moral, and religious restraint and embrace absolute equality and social fraternity. Religious superstition would be replaced with atheism for the masses and a kind of enlightened pantheism for the higher classes. A communism of goods would govern economics. The benevolent, enlightened elite, the Illuminati, would reign over this earthly paradise. As Weishaupt put it, the superiors of Illuminism are to be looked upon as the most perfect and the most enlightened of men. No doubts are to be entertained even of their infallibility. Down with the old masters. Say hello to the new masters. I bet that even if you've never taken notice of secret societies before, you've heard of the Illuminati. Well, over 2 centuries later, the term is embedded in popular culture as the generic name for a conspiratorial group bent on world domination. People pore over Super Bowl ads looking for hidden Illuminati symbols, and they're even parodied in Taco Bell commercials. The Bavarian Illuminati have spawned a cottage industry of conspiracy theory. In this lecture, we're going to explore the roots of Weishaupt's creation, what it believed, what it did, and its legacy. Perhaps its survival. The Illuminati were very much a creature of the 18th century Enlightenment, a time that, while it's mostly identified with the flowering of reason and science, also saw an explosion of interest in mysticism and the occult. The century that produced the French philosophers Diderot, Rousseau, and Voltaire also gave us the Italian forger and swindler Alessandro Cagliostro, the German hypnotist Friedrich Anton Mesmer, and the ageless alchemist, the Count of Saint-Germain. There is nothing new about Weishaupt's utopian vision. The term Illuminati has been used many times before. In the classical age, any initiate of a mystery cult was considered an Illuminatus. The same was true for a Christian who'd undergone baptism. In essence, what Weishaupt envisioned was the realization of heaven on earth, the immanentizing of the Eschatan. That notion goes back a long, long time. A 5th century Persian prophet named Mazdak imagined something much the same. Another version is the millennial paradise that many believe Christ will usher in on his return, or the perfect kingdom Jews anticipate with the Messiah. The difference is that Weishaupt's perfect kingdom would be instituted by humans themselves, at least the illuminated ones. Weishaupt's original contribution to this ancient theme was organization. As opposed to open proselytizing, mass movements, and direct confrontation, he advocated secrecy, or more to the point, conspiracy. The great strength of our order lies in its concealment, he decreed. Let it never appear in any place in its own name, but always covered by another name and another occupation. Besides Weishaupt's lack of originality, there was the question of whether he was the real master of his conspiracy or the tool of something bigger. Occult and Masonic scholar Manly P. Hall claimed that the Bavarian Illuminati were but a fragment of a larger movement. Hall viewed Weishaupt as a faithful servant of a larger cause, and that behind him moved the intricate machinery of the secret schools. Hall warned that the mystery schools never trust their full weight to any perishable institutions. The Bavarian Illuminati were a chapter in a story, not the whole story. Outwardly, Weishaupt and his brethren came nowhere near to achieving their lofty ambitions. The Bavarian Illuminati officially lasted barely a decade. The group is easy to dismiss as another of history's countless failed pipe dreams. But it's not as simple as that. The Illuminati were never rounded up or brought to account. Weishaupt lived to write, plot, and influence until his death in 1830 at the ripe age of 82. Nor was the Society's organization seriously disrupted. After all, it was invisible. Remember, Weishaupt decreed that the order's strength lay in concealment and that it would always appear under other names. How do you ban that? Like other secret societies in history, such as the Templars, Assassins, Cathars, and still more before them, there's every reason to suppose that the Illuminati carried on in one form or another. You could argue that being exposed was the best thing that ever happened to the Illuminati. There's no such thing as bad publicity. Exposure spread the name of the order far and wide. People who might never have heard of it now did, and as many were intrigued as repulsed. Some even argue that Weishaupt himself blew the order's cover for precisely that reason. In other words, it was part of his plan. So who was Adam Weishaupt? His full name was Johann Adam Joseph Weishaupt. He was not Jewish, as some have claimed, nor was he a Jesuit priest or any kind of religious figure. He was the son of a lawyer who died young and left his son's upbringing in the hands of a godfather, Baron Johann von Ickstaff. And Ickstaff was the embodiment of an Enlightenment scholar. As lay director of the Jesuit-run University of Ingolstadt, he possessed a large library of forbidden and esoteric books to which young Adam had early and ready access. Doubtless, he learned a few things. At age 15, Adam entered Ingolstadt University and followed his late father in the study of law. He graduated in 1768, age 20, and right away assumed a professorship at the same school. He was a hometown boy made good. He seemed a typical member of the German intellectual establishment. Weishaupt's Jesuit instructors were noted for the rigorousness of their education. A part of this was the notion of casuistry. It was the use of rational argument to back up dubious, deceptive, or self-serving conclusions, especially moral ones. Simply put, the art of propaganda. Weishaupt learned an important but often overlooked lesson. The voice of reason isn't the one telling you to show mercy. It's the one telling you not to leave any witnesses. The Jesuits were basically a secret society within the Catholic Church. Under the absolute authority of their superior general, they fought the enemies of the Church by all means, fair and foul. Political conspiracy, even assassination, was their stock and trade. Much like the medieval Knights Templars, they amassed wealth and power. And like the Templars, this aroused envy and fear. In the Templars' case, it ended in accusations of heresy and blasphemy. The Jesuits nearly suffered the same fate. In 1773, Pope Clement XIV was persuaded to abolish the Jesuits. For Weishaupt, this meant opportunity. At Ingolstadt, he ascended to deacon of canon law. Weishaupt later expressed both disdain and admiration for his Jesuit mentors. His later position at the head of the Illuminati directly mimicked the autocratic power of the superior general. Arguably, the whole plan of the Illuminati, even its secretiveness, was taken straight from the Jesuit playbook. Thus, some suspected that Weishaupt remained a Jesuit at heart and secretly did their bidding. So what was Weishaupt's plan? First, he was obsessed with secrecy. He proclaimed that, of all the means I know to lead men, the most effectual is a concealed mystery. The hankering of the mind is irresistible. Noting that the games and abuses of secret societies were without end, he said, I wanted to make use of this human weakness for a real and worthy goal, the welfare of mankind. Simply put, Weishaupt saw that men desire status, and offering them access to secrets, real or imagined, was a way to manipulate them. He looked for an existing secret society to serve as a cover for his new one. Weishaupt decided that none is fitter than Freemasonry. The public is accustomed to it, expects little from it, and therefore takes little notice of it. He mocked ordinary Freemasonry as a frivolous business, but appreciated the keenness and zeal of its members, and the way the lodges were knit together by the secrecy of their union. And Masonic lodges made excellent recruiting grounds. So in 1777, Weishaupt joined a Masonic lodge and demanded every Illuminatus do likewise. Once initiated, they were to attain positions of leadership and turn the lodges into vehicles for Illuminati propaganda and expansion. Weishaupt also saw great value in literary societies and libraries, the internet of their day. He commanded his order to establish or infiltrate them so we may turn the public mind which way we will. At the same time, the Illuminati would monitor everything appearing in print. Weishaupt said, if a writer publishes anything that attracts notice, but does not accord with our plan, we must endeavor to win him over or decry him. Though utterly contemptuous of religion, Weishaupt placed a premium on recruiting clerics. The most wonderful thing of all, he wrote, is that the distinguished Lutheran and Calvinist theologians who belong to our order really believe that they see in it, the Illuminati, the true and genuine sense of Christian religion. O mortal man, is there nothing you cannot be made to believe? Weishaupt didn't forget the common man. He said, we must win the common people in every corner. And he said, this will be obtained chiefly by means of the schools and by open, hearty behavior, condescension, popularity, and toleration of their prejudices, which we shall at leisure root out and dispel. Nor did he ignore women, writing, there is no means of influencing men so powerfully as by means of women. Women should therefore be our chief study. We should insinuate ourselves into their good opinion, give them hints of emancipation. This, he argued, will cause them to work for us with zeal without knowing that they do so. Still, Weishaupt's perfect world would be a man's world. The head of every family will be the patriarch, the priest, and the unlettered lord of his family. If this sounds like more deception and manipulation, you're right. Weishaupt wouldn't argue. The ultimate goal was to make men free and happy, but first they had to be made good, and that required manipulation, trickery, even coercion. While the Illuminati would be the enlightened aristocracy of the New World Order, even they weren't equal or free. A recruit or novice was under the complete control of his recruiter or insinuator. Novices were told what to read, how to think, and they kept a daily account of their every thought and action. They also compiled detailed personal histories. They had no secrets from their insinuator and obeyed every command without question. Initiates received a special name, usually something classical. Weishaupt's was Spartacus. Curiously, many picked names connected to ancient mystery cults like Osiris, Pythagoras, or Attis. Once a novice received initiation into the next rank, the Brethren of Minerva, he had truly entered the Illuminati. There were also two higher ranks, minor and major Illuminatus, but Weishaupt decreed that no religionist, that is, anyone retaining a scrap of their old belief, could be admitted to them. Nor was there any room for patriotism. Absolute loyalty to the order and one's Illuminati superiors was the rule. The love of one's prince and of one's country are incompatible with the ultimate aims of the order. Ordinary morality was also forbidden. Calumnies, poisonings, assassinations, perjury, treasons, and rebellions were not crimes if done on the command of superiors and for the good of the order. It's that old saying, to the pure, all things are pure. At root, it was antinomianism, the rejection of all traditional rules and restrictions. The Illuminati later instituted more higher grades, unknown to the rank and file. There were Scotch Knights, a nod to the Masonic Scottish Rite, epops, prefects, national directors, national prefects, and finally, the Grand Master, Adam Weishaupt himself. Illuminati propaganda insisted the order would free men from all religious prejudices, cultivate social virtues, and lead them to a speedy prospect of universal happiness in a state of liberty and moral equality, freed from subordination, rank, and riches. Weishaupt proclaimed, "My explanation is accurate and complete. My means are effectual and irresistible. Our secret association works in a way nothing can withstand, and man shall soon be free and happy." If any of this sounds familiar, it should. Everything about Weishaupt's Illuminism echoes the style, substance, and promise of later communism. Coincidence or inheritance? So how did Weishaupt's plan work in practice? Researchers like Terry Melanson, who maintains the Conspiracy Archives, identifies about 450 confirmed Illuminati. Other estimates range from 600 to 2,000. Regardless, a huge increase from the original 5. Still, secret societies always emphasize quality over quantity. Known Illuminati came almost exclusively from the 18th century intelligentsia. Lawyers, academics, physicians, writers, and theologians abound. Among them was Johann von Goethe, author of Faust and one of the most celebrated names in Western literature. And Goethe was confidential advisor to another Illuminatus, Duke Karl August of Saxe-Weimar. The Illuminati roster includes an astounding number of barons and counts, as well as more important aristocrats such as dukes and princes. Peasants, butchers, and chimney sweeps are absent. Jews, pagans, and ex-Jesuits were generally excluded, though exceptions were made. The great majority of Illuminati were Freemasons. Most were Germans, but there were brethren in Austria, Hungary, Switzerland, France, Denmark, and even Russia. There was an especially active cell in Naples, Italy. They played a guiding role in Naples' short-lived Parthenopean Republic in 1799. Weishaupt focused on recruiting what today we'd call influencers or opinion shapers. Illuminati brethren also mostly represented the have-somes of Enlightenment society as opposed to the have-nots and the have-everythings. They have some and they wanted more. They embodied both ambition and resentment. The same sort can be found in the driver's seat of almost every revolution. Marx, Lenin, and Castro would have felt quite at home. Despite the secrecy and conspiracy, Weishaupt's order seemed to evaporate under scrutiny. But evaporated water doesn't cease to exist. It just goes somewhere else. Under pressure from the Church, Karl Theodor of Bavaria banned the Illuminati in 1784, and again in 1785, yet again in 1787, and again in 1790. Obviously, suppression wasn't easy, nor thorough. Outside Bavaria, the order was mostly unscathed. Weishaupt slipped away to nearby Gotha, and he was protected by its Illuminatus prince, Javier von Zwack. One of Weishaupt's most key lieutenants was briefly jailed but escaped to Paris in 1786. A year later, so did Johann Bode, whom Weishaupt made executive secretary of the order. The exposure of the Illuminati was at least partly the work of a disaffected brother, Baron Adolf von Knigge, who objected to Weishaupt's stiff-necked and authoritarian leadership. Von Knigge was also one who accused Weishaupt of secret Jesuitry. Earlier, I said that there were other Illuminati cults. Well, the term goes back to the mystery cults of the Roman Empire. Illuminism wasn't just a Western concept. In the 1500s, in what's now Afghanistan, a brotherhood appeared, the Roshaniya, or Illuminated Ones. They had elaborate, very secret initiatory rituals. Their founder and illuminated master was a Sufi warrior mystic named Pir Bayezid Khan. He decried the tyranny and spiritual imperfections of secular rulers, including the powerful Mughal emperor. Pir Bayezid preached the overthrow of the existing order and the creation of a new world order based on an egalitarian, communistic society. Men and women would enjoy a paradise of perfect equality under the benign guidance of an enlightened elite. Sounds familiar, yes? Was the Roshaniya just part of what author Manly Hall called the larger movement? Around the same time, in Spain, there were the Alumbrados, or Illuminados. They were first mentioned in 1492 and were supposed to have come to Spain from Italy. Church officials suspected them of being a survival of the earlier Cathars. Supporting the notion was the Alumbrados' rejection of the Catholic Church's authority and sacraments. Following masters guided by visions of angels and saints, the Spanish Illuminati sought mystical knowledge and ecstatic union with God. Once that was attained, you could indulge lusts and other desires all you wanted without actually sinning. To the pure, all things are pure, yet again. This led to claims that the whole thing was a cover for a sex cult. The Inquisition intervened, and the Alumbrados were banned in 1525. Among those implicated in the cult was none other than the future founder of the Jesuits, Ignatius Loyola. Still, the Alumbrados survived and spread to France in the early 1600s. There they were called the Illuminés. Under the leadership of a former Catholic curate, Pierre Guérin, these Illuminati attained a following in Picardy before being suppressed, but not destroyed, in 1635. And their appearance has an interesting overlap with another secret order, the Rosicrucians. In the early 1700s, yet another bunch of Illuminés appeared in the remote Cévennes region of southern France. They were part of a Protestant revolt against the French crown and the Catholic Church. Some of these Illuminati fled to England. There they formed a sect called the French Prophets, who joined or infiltrated esoteric Masonic lodges. In 1754, back in France, an occultist named Joachim Martin de Pasquale founded yet another Illuminist sect dubbed the Order of Knights, Masons, Elect Priests of the Universe. Their doctrine was drawn from ancient Jewish mystical traditions, the Kabbalah, ritual magic, and even the doctrine of Swedish mystic Emanuel Swedenborg. They spread all the way to Russia, where a cell thrived in Moscow until suppressed by Catherine the Great in the 1790s. As a fixture of popular culture, the Illuminati tale kept evolving. One of the first places it might appear is Mary Shelley's 1818 novel, Frankenstein. Weishaupt's hometown of Ingolstadt is the same place Victor Frankenstein makes his monster. Some see Shelley's tale as an allegory for Adam Weishaupt's creation of the Illuminati, a monster over which he lost control. Certainly, Mary's husband, poet Percy Shelley, was fascinated by the Illuminati. Researcher Scott DeHart argues that Percy Shelley was himself an Illuminatus and the real author of the novel. Weishaupt's secret society went on to become a stock villain in Gothic potboilers. Jane Austen mentions them half-jokingly in Northanger Abbey. They also come up in Tolstoy's War and Peace and have been referenced by contemporary novelists Umberto Eco, Dan Brown, and the Marvel Universe of comic book fame. And then there are the video games and music. Madonna's 2015 song Illuminati just continues the refrain. The Illuminati have spawned endless conspiracy theories as well. Nesta Webster, in her 1924 book Secret Societies and Subversive Movements, resurrected claims of Illuminati influence behind the French Revolution and further linked them to the Bolsheviks and pretty much every other radical movement since the beginning of time. Illuminati has become the blanket term for any shadowy elite bent on global domination. What do Henry Kissinger, Queen Elizabeth, David Rockefeller, and arms magnate Basil Zaharoff have in common? They're all accused of being Illuminati. In the 1990s, British conspiracist David Icke went further, way further, by turning the Illuminati into shape-shifting lizard people from outer space. What would Adam Weishaupt make of all this? Would he be disgusted that his plan for making men happy and free had been co-opted, corrupted, and lampooned? Or would he find satisfaction that the name has survived and that his secret society may have achieved power and influence beyond anything he could have imagined in 1776?
The recent election of Cardinal Giorgia Bergoglio to the position of Pope Francis I was an unprecedented event the world has never before witnessed. It is the first time in history that a member of the Jesuit order has been elected to the highest position of the Roman Catholic Church. Reactions worldwide varied from jubilation to matter-of-fact acceptance to disinterest. These very reactions reveal appalling ignorance of the true nature of the Jesuit order. Widely regarded as a benevolent missionary order, known for its educational institutions, the Jesuit order, as the Society of Jesus is commonly known, has long played an incredibly influential, albeit secretive, role in the destinies of nations, organizations, and individuals. Rulers, presidents, scholars, and even Catholics themselves, who are aware of the evil perpetrated by this powerful, far-reaching order, have left on record grave warnings that all should heed. Following is a compilation of quotes from a variety of sources. Some admit that their own diabolical organizations were modeled on Jesuit principles. Others give warning. A number of those who sought to warn did so at the cost of their lives. World's Last Chance would encourage all to carefully study the following material. Proverbs 1:5 tells us, "A wise man will hear and will increase learning, and a man of understanding shall attain unto wise counsels." Ignatius Loyola, 1491 to 1556, founder of the Society of Jesus and its first superior general. Nor will it contribute a little to our advantage if with caution and secrecy we foment and heighten the animosities that arise among princes and great men, even to such a degree that they may weaken each other. But if there appear any likelihood of reconciliation, then as soon as possible let us endeavor to be the mediators, lest others prevent us. Finally, let all with such artfulness gain the ascendant over princes, noblemen, and the magistrates of every place, that they may be ready at our beck, even to sacrifice their nearest relations and most intimate friends, when we say it is for our interest and advantage. Let proper methods be used to get knowledge of the animosities that arise among great men, that we may have a finger in reconciling their differences. For by this means we shall gradually become acquainted with their friends and secret affairs, and of necessity engage one of the parties in our interests. Immediately upon the death of any person of post, let them take timely care to get some friend of our society preferred in his room. But this must be cloaked with such cunning and management as to avoid giving the least suspicion of our intending to usurp the prince's authority. Putting aside all private judgment, we should always be ready to accept this principle. I will believe that the white I see is black, if the hierarchical church so defines it. Princes and persons of distinction everywhere must, by all means, be so managed that we may have their ear, and that will easily secure their hearts, by which way of proceeding all persons will become our creatures, and no one will dare to give the society the least disquiet or opposition. Finally, the society must endeavor to effect this at least, that having gotten the favor and authority of princes, those who do not love them at least fear them. Paolo Sarpi, 1552 to 1623, a Venetian patriot, scholar, scientist, and church reformer. They are a public plague and the plague of the world. From the Jesuit colleges there never is sent a pupil obedient to his father, devoted to his country, loyal to his prince. Every species of vice finds its patronage in them. There is no perjury, nor sacrilege, nor parricide, nor incest, nor rapine, nor fraud, nor treason, which cannot be masked as meritorious beneath the mantle of their dispensation. Muccio Vitelleschi, 1562 to 1645, 6th Superior General of the Society of Jesus. When sovereigns require a Jesuit's opinion on any subject, the Jesuit in question is to report the matter to his superior, who is to lay it before several Jesuits for discussion. The resolution formed after this consultation is supplied to the Jesuit, who has been consulted by the sovereign. Priest Antoine Arnaud, 1612 to 1694. Do you wish to excite troubles, to provoke revolution, to produce the total ruin of your country? Call in the Jesuits and build magnificent colleges for these hot-headed religionists. Suffer those audacious priests in their dictatorial and dogmatic tone to decide on affairs of state. Michelangelo Tamburini, 1648 to 1730, 14th Superior General of the Society of Jesus. See, sir, from this chamber I govern not only to Paris, but to China, not only to China, but to all the world, without anyone to know how I do it. Pope Clement XIV, 1705 to 1774. Following are Pope Clement XIV's words upon signing the bull of suppression and extinction of the Jesuits. A bull is the strongest legal document a pope can issue. The suppression is accomplished. I do not repent of it, having only resolved on it after examining and weighing everything, and because I thought it necessary for the Church. If it were not done, I would do it now. But this suppression will be my death. Pope Clement XIV knew the Jesuits very well and expected to die at their hands. He was correct. He was poisoned. A peasant woman was persuaded by means of a disguise to procure entrance into the Vatican and offered to the Pope a fig in which poison was concealed. Clement XIV was exceedingly fond of this fruit and ate it without hesitation. The same day, the first symptoms of severe illness were observed, and to these rapidly succeeding violent inflammation of the bowels. He soon became convinced that he was poisoned and remarked, "Alas, I knew they would poison me, but I did not expect to die in so slow and cruel a manner." His terrible sufferings continued for several months. When he died, the poor victim, said Comenon, of the execrable Jesuits to which the Bishop of Pistoia, Scipio di Ricci, the nephew and heir of Jesuit General Ricci, fully agreed. Pope Pius VII, the Pope who restored the Society of Jesus. Soon after Pope Pius VII was released from Napoleon's prison in 1814, he quickly restored the Society of Jesus with the papal bull Sollicitudo Omnium Ecclesiarum. If any should again attempt to abolish it, the Society of Jesus, he would incur the indignation of Almighty God and of the holy apostles Peter and Paul. John Adams, 1735-1826, second President of the United States of America. In 1816, John Adams wrote to Thomas Jefferson, third President of the United States, regarding the restoration of the Society of Jesus. My history of the Jesuits is not eloquently written, but it is supported by unquestionable authorities, is very particular and very horrible. Their restoration is indeed a step toward darkness, cruelty, perfidy, despotism, death. I do not like the appearance of the Jesuits. If ever there were a body of men who merited eternal damnation on earth and in hell, it is this Society of Loyola's. Shall we not have regular swarms of them here, in as many disguises as only a king of the gypsies can assume, dressed as painters, publishers, writers, and schoolmasters? If ever there was a body of men who merited eternal damnation on earth and in hell, it is this Society of Loyola's. We are compelled by our system to offer them asylum. Napoleon Bonaparte, 1769 to 1821, Emperor of the French. The Jesuits are a military organization, not a religious order. Their chief is a general of an army, not the mere father abbot of a monastery. And the aim of this organization is power. Power in its most despotic exercise. Absolute power, universal power, power to control the world by the volition of a single man. Jesuitism is the most absolute of despotisms, and at the same time the greatest and most enormous of abuses. The general of the Jesuits insists on being master sovereign over the sovereign. Wherever the Jesuits are admitted, they will be masters, cost what it may. Their society is by nature dictatorial, and therefore it is the irreconcilable enemy of all constituted authority. Every act, every crime, however atrocious, is a meritorious work, if committed for the interest of the Society of the Jesuits or by the order of the general. Adam Weishaupt, 1748 to 1830, a Jesuit German philosopher and founder of the Order of the Illuminati. The degree of power to which the representatives of the Society of Jesus had been able to attain in Bavaria was all but absolute. Members of the order were the confessors and preceptors of the electors, hence they had a direct influence upon the policies of government. The censorship of religion had fallen into their eager hands, to the extent that some of the parishes even were compelled to recognize their authority and power. To exterminate all Protestant influence and to render the Catholic establishment complete, they had taken possession of the instruments of public education. It was by Jesuits that the majority of the Bavarian colleges were founded, and by them they were controlled. By them also the secondary schools of the country were conducted. The Marquis de Lafayette, 1757 to 1834, a French statesman and general. It is my opinion that if the liberties of this country, the United States of America, are destroyed, it will be by the subtlety of the Roman Catholic Jesuit priests, for they are the most crafty, dangerous enemies to civil and religious liberty. They have instigated most of the wars of Europe. Friedrich von Hardenberg, 1772 to 1801, German philosopher. Never before in the course of the world's history had such a society, that is, the Jesuit order, appeared. The old Roman Senate itself did not lay schemes for world domination with greater certainty of success. André-Marie Jean-Jacques Dupin, 1783 to 1865, a French statesman. The Jesuits are a naked sword whose hilt is at Rome, but its blade is everywhere, invisible until its stroke is felt. Samuel Morse, 1791 to 1872, American inventor of the telegraph. They are Jesuits. This society of men, after exerting their tyranny for upwards of 200 years, at length became so formidable to the world, threatening the entire subversion of all social order, that even the Pope, whose devoted subjects they are, and must be, by the vow of their society, was compelled to dissolve them. They had not been suppressed, however, for 50 years before the waning influence of popery and despotism required their useful labors to resist the light of democratic liberty, and the Pope, Pius VII, simultaneously with the formation of the Holy Alliance, revived the order of the Jesuits in all their houri. From their vow of unqualified submission to the sovereign pontiff, they have been appropriately called the Pope's bodyguard. And do Americans need to be told what Jesuits are? They are a secret society, a sort of Masonic order, with super-added features of revolting odiousness, and 1,000 times more dangerous. They are not merely priests or of one religious creed. They are merchants and lawyers and editors and men of any profession having no outward badge in this country by which to be recognized. They are about in all your society. They can assume any character, that of angels of light or ministers of darkness, to accomplish their one great end, the service upon which they are sent. Whatever that service may be. They are all educated men, prepared and sworn to start at any moment and in any direction, and for any service, commanded by the general of their order, bound to no family, community, or country by the ordinary ties which bind men, and sold for life to the cause of the Roman pontiff. And who are these agents? They are for the most part Jesuits, an ecclesiastical order proverbial through the world for cunning, duplicity, and total want of moral principle, an order so skilled in all the arts of deception that even in Catholic countries, in Italy itself, it became intolerable and the people required its suppression. Orestes Augustus Brownson, 1803 to 1876, New England intellectual and activist, preacher, labor organizer, and noted Catholic convert and writer. Undoubtedly, it is the intention of the Pope to possess this country, America. In this intention, he is aided by the Jesuits and all the Catholic prelates and priests. If the Catholic Church becomes predominant here, Protestants will all be exterminated. Abraham Lincoln, 1809 to 1865, 16th President of the United States of America. This war, the American Civil War, 1860 to 1865, would never have been possible without the sinister influence of the Jesuits. We owe it to Popery that we now see our land reddened with the blood of her noblest sons. Though there were great differences of opinion between the South and North on the question of slavery, neither Jeff Davis nor any one of the leading men of the Confederacy would have dared to attack the North had they not relied on the promise of the Jesuits that under the mask of democracy, the money and the arms of the Roman Catholics, even the arms of France, were at their disposal if they would attack us. The Protestants of both the North and South would surely unite to exterminate the priests and the Jesuits if they could learn how the priests and nuns and the monks which daily land on our shores under the pretext of preaching their religion are nothing else but the emissaries of the Pope, of Napoleon III, and the other despots of Europe to undermine our institutions, alienate the hearts of our people from our Constitution and our laws, destroy our schools, and prepare a reign of anarchy here as they have done in Ireland, in Mexico, in Spain, and wherever there are any people who want to be free. I am so glad to meet you again, he said. You'll see that your friends the Jesuits have not yet killed me, but they would have surely done it when I passed through the most devoted city, Baltimore, had I not defeated their plans by passing incognito a few hours before they expected me. New projects of assassination are detected almost every day, accompanied with such savage circumstances that they bring to my memory the massacre of St. Bartholomew and the gunpowder plot. We feel, at their investigation, that they come from the same masters in the art of murder, the Jesuits. So many plots have already been made against my life that it is a real miracle that they have all failed when we consider that the great majority of them were in the hands of skillful Roman Catholic murderers evidently trained by the Jesuits. I know that Jesuits never forget nor forsake, but man must not care how and where he dies, provided he dies at the post of honor and duty. Charles Chineke, 1809 to 1899, Canadian ex-Catholic priest. From that the Catholic priests with the most admirable ability and success have gathered their Irish legions into the great cities of the United States, and the American people must be very blind indeed if they do not see that if they do nothing to prevent it, the day is very near when the Jesuits will rule their country, from the magnificent White House at Washington to the humblest civil and military department of this vast republic. Brigadier General Thomas M. Harris, 1817 to 1906, physician and Union General during the Civil War. The organization of the Roman Catholic hierarchy is a complete military despotism of which the Pope is the ostensible head. The Black Pope is the head of the Order of the Jesuits and is called a general. He not only has command of his own order, but directs and controls the general policy of the Roman Catholic Church. He is the power behind the throne and is the real potential head of the hierarchy. There is no independence of thought or of action in its subordinate parts. Implicit and unquestioning obedience to the orders of superiors in authority is the sworn duty of the priesthood of every grade. It would seem that the Jesuits had it in mind from the beginning of the war, the American Civil War of 1861 to 1865, to find an occasion for the taking off, that is the assassination, of Mr. Abraham Lincoln. The favorite policy of the Jesuits is that of assassination. Fyodor Dostoevsky, 1821 to 1881, famous Russian novelist. The Jesuits are simply the Roman army for the earthly sovereignty of the world in the future, with the Pontiff of Rome for emperor. That's their ideal. It's simple lust of power, a filthy earthly gain of domination, something like a universal serfdom with them as masters. That's all they stand for. They don't even believe in God, perhaps. Margaret F. Cusick, 1829 to 1899, converted nun of Kenmare. The great idea of the Jesuit has always been a universal spiritual and temporal monarchy in which the Jesuit should reign supreme. England has always been the place desired for the base of operations necessary for this end. Hence the blood, the tears shed, and the schemes undertaken in this country by the Jesuit. He has by no means ended his efforts for the subjugation of the world to Rome through England. When the Jesuit is expelled from one place, he is not slow to find another. France may reject him, not without cause, but England opens her arms to him. Catholic Italy may deprive him of the glories of his once famous home in the Jesuit, but America opens her doors to him. He is the wandering Jew of the Romish Church. He is followed by the execrations of those by whom he was once beloved until they discovered his iniquities. Charles Haddon Spurgeon, 1834 to 1892, British particular Baptist preacher known as the Prince of Preachers. Our ancient enemies have small belief in our common sense if they imagine that we shall ever be able to trust them, after having so often beheld the depths of Jesuitical cunning and duplicity. The sooner we let certain archbishops and cardinals know that we are aware of their designs and will in nothing cooperate with them, the better for us and our country. Of course, we shall be howled at as bigots, but we can afford to smile at that cry when it comes from the church which invented the Inquisition. No peace with Rome is the motto of reason as well as of religion. Richard W. Thompson, 1809 to 1900, Secretary of the Navy, United States of America. The Jesuits are the deadly enemies of civil and religious liberty. The Jesuit general occupies the place of God and must be obeyed, howsoever the peace and welfare of the multitude may be imperiled or the nations be convulsed from center to circumference. The Society of Jesuits must obtain the mastery, even if general anarchy shall prevail, or all the world besides be covered with the fragments of a universal wreck. The sovereigns of the Holy Alliance had massed large armies, and soon entered into a pledge to devote them to the suppression of all uprisings of the people in favor of free government. And he, Pius VII, desired to devote the Jesuits, supported by his pontifical power, to the accomplishment of that end. He knew how faithfully they would apply themselves to that work, and hence he counseled them in his decree of restoration to strictly observe the useful advices and salutary counsels whereby Loyola had made absolution the cornerstone of the society. Luigi de Sanctis, 19th century ex-official censor of the Inquisition. All these things caused the Father General of the Jesuits to be feared by the Pope and sovereigns. A sovereign who is not there, the Jesuits' friend, will sooner or later experience their vengeance. At what then do the Jesuits aim? According to them, they only seek the greater glory of God. But if you examine the facts, you will find that they aim at universal dominion alone. They have rendered themselves indispensable to the Pope, who without them could not exist, because Catholicism is identified with them. They have rendered themselves indispensable to governors and hold revolutions in their hands. And in this way, either under one name or another, it is they who rule the world. He who thinks he knows the Jesuits by having read all the books that were written in the past century, the 18th century, to unmask them would be grossly deceived. The Jesuitism of that day was an open war against the gospel and society. The Jesuitism of the present is a slow but contagious and deadly disease which secretly insinuates itself. It is a poison taken under the name of medicine. G. B. Nicolini, Italian ex-Catholic, in 1854 published the finest Italian history of the Jesuits in existence. Take the Jesuit for what he ought or appears to be, and you commit the greatest of blunders. Draw the character after what the Jesuit seems to be in London, you will not recognize your portrait in the Jesuit of Rome. The Jesuit is the man of circumstances. Despotic in Spain, constitutional in England, republican in Paraguay, bigot in Rome, idolater in India. He shall assume and act out in his own person with admirable flexibility all those different features by which men are usually to be distinguished from each other. He will accompany the gay women of the world to the theater and will share in the excesses of the debauchee. With solemn countenance he will take his place by the side of the religious man at church, and he will revel in the tavern with the glutton and the sot. He dresses in all garbs, speaks all languages, knows all customs, is present everywhere, though nowhere recognized, and all this, it should seem, O monstrous blasphemy, for the greater glory of God, ad majorum Dei gloriam. The members of the society are divided into 4 classes: the professed, coadjutors, scholars, and novices. There is also a secret 5th class, known only to the general and a few faithful Jesuits, which perhaps more than any other contributes to the dreaded and mysterious power of the order. It is composed of laymen of all ranks, from the minister to the humble shoeboy. These are affiliated to the society, but not bound by any vows. They are persons who will make themselves useful. They act as the spies of the order, and serve, often unwittingly, as the tools and accomplices in dark and mysterious crimes. The Jesuit Father Francis Pellico candidly confesses that the many illustrious friends of the society remain occult and obliged to be silent. There is no record in history of an association whose organization has stood for 300 years unchanged and unaltered by all the assaults of men and time, and which has exercised such an immense influence over the destinies of mankind. The ends justify the means is his favorite maxim, and as his only end, as we have shown, is the order. At its bidding, the Jesuit is ready to commit any crime whatsoever. The immense wealth of the Jesuits has been bequeathed to them by wills made at the last hour. Francis Parkman, 1823 to 1893, American historian. The Jesuits, then as now, were the most forcible exponents of ultramontane principles. The Church to rule the world, the Pope to rule the Church, the Jesuits to rule the Pope. Such was and is the simple program of the Order of Jesus, and to it they have held fast except on a few rare occasions of misunderstanding with the Vice-Regent of Christ. Hector Macpherson, 1851 to 1924, prolific Scottish writer and journalist. So hurtful was the Jesuit order found to be that up to 1860 it was expelled no fewer than 70 times from countries which had suffered from its machinations. In spite of continental warnings, England under Queen Victoria, 1837 to 1901, who opened up communication with the Vatican in 1877 and enabled the order to carry out its Second Irish Massacre, 1845 to 1850, has become a Jesuit dumping ground. Those whom other countries have found from sad experience to be enemies, Britain allows to land on her shores and to carry on, unmolested, their work of iniquity. We are carrying toleration to excess, and unless there is a change of policy, this nation will one day pay a heavy penalty. Father Jeremy J. Crowley, 1861 to 1927, American ex-Catholic priest. All through the Middle Ages and the Renaissance period, the popes kept Italy in turmoil and bloodshed for their own family and territorial advantages, and they kept all Europe in turmoil for 2 centuries after the Reformation, in fact, just as long as they could in the wars of religion. Their whole policy is based on stirring up hatred and promoting conflicts from which they hope to draw worldly advantage. Popes and their Jesuitical agents have been and are the instigators of wars, and while the world is having real pain, Rome is having champagne. The Jesuit Superior General is at the head of this black and mute militia which thinks, wills, acts, obeys as the passive instrument of his designs. Their whole life must have but one aim: the advancement of the Jesuit order to which they are attached. How long shall the Roman Catholic hierarchy play the people for fools? Shall the government be of the people, for the people, and by the people, or by the Pope? Let's not let the Pope of Rome name our president for us. Lovers of your country, beware of Jesuitical intrigues, the political power of Romanism, and the honeyed words of politicians reaching after the presidency. Ellen G. White, 1827 to 1915, prolific author and American Christian pioneer. Jesuitism inspired its followers with fanaticism. There was no crime too great for them to commit, no deception too base for them to practice, no disguise too difficult for them to assume. It was a fundamental principle of the order that the end justifies the means. By this code, lying, theft, perjury, assassination were not only pardonable but commendable when they served the interests of the Church. Under various disguises, the Jesuits worked their way into offices of state, climbing up to be the counselors of kings and shaping the policy of nations. Edmund Ronan, 1832 to 1911, former Freemason who served as both secretary and master of Keystone Lodge. The religion of Masonry is a system of absolute despotism, and like that of Rome, demands a blind, unquestioning obedience to all its laws, rules, and edicts, whether right or wrong. What a singular commentary on the indifference, the subserviency, or the cowardice of society that an institution professedly organized by such cunning knaves, the Jesuits, and for such base purposes, and which has been sustained by fraud, falsehood, and deception from the commencement of its career to the present time, should be permitted today to dictate to, if not virtually to rule the nation, and to create such a dread in communities that even some of the ministers of Christian denominations, who detest its vile philosophy and who would like to see it swept from the face of the earth, are absolutely afraid to mention its name, either in the pulpit, the prayer meeting, or the Sabbath school, lest its secret vendetta vengeance might, in some concealed manner, be wreaked upon them. Adolf Hitler, 1889 to 1945, Austrian-born German politician and the leader of the Nazi Party. I have learned most of all from the Jesuit order. So far, there has been nothing more imposing on earth than the hierarchical organization of the Catholic Church. A good part of that organization I have transported direct to my own party. The Catholic Church must be held up as an example. I will tell you a secret. I am founding an order. In Himmler, I see our Ignatius de Loyola. Walter Friedrich Schellenberg, 1910 to 1952, German SS Brigadier Führer, who rose through the ranks of the SS to become the head of foreign intelligence. The SS had been organized by Himmler according to the principles of the Jesuit order. The rules of service and spiritual exercises prescribed by Ignatius de Loyola constituted a model which Himmler strove carefully to copy. Absolute obedience was the supreme rule. Every order had to be executed without comment. Avro Manhattan, 1914 to 1990, a writer and philosopher. The Jesuits are one of the largest stockholders in the American Steel Company, Republic, and National. They are also among the most important owners of the four greatest aircraft manufacturing companies in the U.S., Boeing, Lockheed, Douglas, and Curtiss-Wright. No political event or circumstance can be evaluated without the knowledge of the Vatican's part in it, and no significant world situation exists in which the Vatican does not play an important explicit or implicit role. Alberto Rivera, 1935 to 1997, ex-Jesuit. The higher I went in the Jesuit order, the more corruption I saw within the institution. I was invited to attend a secret black mass by high-ranking Jesuits, including Superior General Pedro Arupe, in a monastery in the northern part of Spain. When I knelt to kiss the ring of a high official, I saw a symbol on that ring that made my blood run cold. It was a Masonic symbol, the compass and the square. A thing I hated, and I had been told to fight against it. I found out the Jesuit general was also a Mason and a member of the Communist Party in Spain. Frederick Tupper Southey III, 1936 to 2007, American composer, musician, author, and artist. The Roman Inquisition had been administered since 1542 by the Jesuits. Edmund Paris, 1894 to 1970, author of The Secret History of the Jesuits. The public is practically unaware of the overwhelming responsibility carried by the Vatican and its Jesuits in the starting of the two world wars, a situation which may be explained in part by the gigantic finances at the disposition of the Vatican and its Jesuits, giving them power in so many spheres, especially since the last conflict. The Jesuits are a secret society, a sort of Masonic order, with super-added features of revolting odiousness and 1,000 times more dangerous. The Führer had come to power thanks to the votes of the Catholic Zentrum, Central Party overseen by Jesuit Ludwig Kass, only 5 years before, 1933. But most of the objectives cynically revealed in Mein Kampf were already realized. This book was written by the Jesuit-controlled Father Bernhard Stempfler and signed by Hitler. For it was the Society of Jesus which perfected the famous Pan-German program as laid out in this book, and the Führer endorsed it. Nino Lobello, 1922 to 1997, American author and journalist, specialized in writing about the Vatican. The Pope's confessor, an ordinary priest, must be a Jesuit. He must visit the Vatican once a week at a fixed time, and he alone may absolve the Pope of his sins. Michael Bunker, American writer, historian, theologian. There is a conspiracy against Christendom, but who are Satan's agents in this conspiracy? The agents are the Jesuits. Even though the Jesuits exude vast influence and control in the areas of theology, education, recorded history, and current media, I am still perplexed that virtually no literature exists exposing the Jesuits' influence on mainline Protestantism. In this work, the author uncovers forgotten history regarding the cooperative salvation theology of the Jesuits. From Cain to Charles G. Finney, this book proves that modern Protestantism has abandoned the doctrines of grace and embraced the satanic doctrines of cooperative salvation. Eric John Phelps, 1953, still living, author and protagonist in the truth-seeking movement in the United States. In the 20th century, the Jesuits have conducted their inquisition under the names of Nazism, fascism, communism, and now Islamic terrorism, with their inquisitors Adolf Hitler, Francisco Franco, Joseph Stalin, and now Osama bin Laden. Today, the Black Pope orders His Holy Office of the Inquisition, renamed in 1965 the Sacred Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith, through his international intelligence community headed by papal knights, including Skull and Bonesman George W. Bush. To the abhorrent Jesuit doctrine of regicide, the killing of kings, we must now direct our attention that we may understand an established policy calculated to obtain or maintain the mastery of all nations following well-planned assassinations. In the past, the Order's assassins were either Jesuits, like Jacques Clement, or killers easily connected to the influence of the company, men like John Wilkes Booth. Today, these professional terminators are cleverly distanced from their Masonic master, the Black Pope, and given deceptive titles by the Pope's internationally controlled press corps, jurists, and historians. Such titles as anarchists, nihilists, rogue agents within intelligence agencies, or just lone nut assassins. Sometimes these individuals in fact do the killing, consciously and unconsciously, as do the programmed Manchurian candidates. They sacrifice themselves, die in the act, or are punished for their crimes. Created by Loyola in 1534 and sanctioned by Paul III in 1540. In seeking to destroy the Protestant Reformation and restore the Dark Ages with the White Pope, exercising his temporal power as the universal monarch of the world, authored the 25 sessions of the Council of Trent, 1545 to 1563, and established themselves as the confessors and advisors of the monarchs of Europe, promoting absolute monarchical despotisms through which they ignited monstrous wars characterized by pitiless massacres of Protestants and innocents, such as the Dutch Revolution, 1568 to 1648, the 30 Years' War, 1618 to 1648, the Puritan Revolution, 1644 to 1653, the 7 Years, French Indian War, 1754 to 1763. While oppressing and weakening the peoples of the nations and the Semitic Hebrew Jewish race with the Holy Office of the Inquisition, aided by the Knights of Malta and later Scottish Rite Freemasonry from 1540 to 1773, we as God's people in 14th Amendment America have received the Lord Jesus Christ as our personal Savior according to His blessed gospel set forth in His infallible Holy Scriptures. The authorized King James Version of 1611 must repent of our personal and national sins. Then we must forsake them. Some of those sins are: 1. Permitting the army of the Black Pope, the company of the Society of Jesus, to exist, mightily prosper, and absolutely control the government of the United States through its Council on Foreign Relations within our borders. 2. Believing the Jesuit-controlled American press, which has continually lied and deceived us throughout the 20th century. 3. Permitting the Jesuits' Federal Reserve banking system and United Nations to exist within our borders, as these two bodies have successfully destroyed popular liberty, liberalism, and the national sovereignty of every nation in the world pursuant to the purposes of the Jesuits' Holy Alliance. 4. Waiving our Fourth and Fifth Amendment rights secured by the declaratory and restrictive clauses of the Bill of Rights at the insistence of the Baptists of Virginia, and so dearly paid for with torrents of blood by our Protestant forefathers, through filing our confessions every April 15th, paying the heavy and progressive communist income tax, thereby financing a multitude of sins. 5. Permitting the drafting, vaccinating, and sending of our sons abroad to fight the Pope's foreign wars, such as the war in Vietnam and the recent wars in Serbia, Iraq, and now Afghanistan, resulting in the further destruction of American liberals and foreign heretics so condemned by the Jesuits' Council of Trent. 6. Permitting the Jesuits in control of the government of the American Empire to use our military and financial might to enthrone dictators around the world whose first allegiance is to Rome, thereby restoring the temporal power of the Jesuits, infallible Pope, returning the world to the Dark Ages. 7. Consenting to the Jesuits' Supreme Court decisions in removing the Protestant Bible and prayer from the bulwark of American liberty so hated by the Jesuits, the public school system. 8. Consenting to the immigration of millions of Roman Catholics and pagan persons of color whose loyalty to the Pope or their own race, religion, and nationality is greater than their loyalty to our Protestant Constitution and Republican form of government, thereby creating a multitude of agitations justifying more centralization of power in Washington, D.C., and through amalgamation, the Africanization of the American white Celtic Anglo-Saxon race, being historically the greatest enemy of the Jesuit order, especially its Bible-believing Protestants and Baptists, as intended by the Company of Jesus pursuant to its Jesuit oath. 9. Consenting to the Jesuit Supreme Court's several decisions of forced integration, resulting in the destruction of both the white and black races through amalgamation, as the exchange of viruses, bacteria, and parasites, unique to each race, creates powerful combinations in the offspring, producing a non-resistant, weak, and sterile population within 5 generations. 10. Consenting to the Jesuit Supreme Court's decision of legalized abortion, resulting in the mass murder of unborn babies, polluting the land with innocent blood, ultimately collapsing the Ponzi scheme called the Social Security system, justifying mass murder of the elderly by the coming fascist dictator, provoking the Lord against us to consume us until there be no remnant nor escaping in the land, by means of a massive military invasion composed of a coalition of nations, cleansing the land with the blood of unrepentant and unforgiven American murderers. 11. Succumbing to race hatred as a result of Jesuit-controlled Masonic agitators such as the White Knights of the Ku Klux Klan and the Black Nation of Islam, justifying the imposition of martial law when the inner-city race wars begin. 12. Sheepishly giving up our real wealth, gold and silver coins in exchange for indulgences, the Jesuits' worthless paper money called Federal Reserve notes, and thereby becoming a nation of overworked, unprincipled, money-hungry thieves. 13. Consenting to the cattle brand of the Jesuits' Social Security number as a means of identification to be used by their international intelligence community, begun by Hitler's SS at Dachau, it being the forerunner of. 14. Obeying the evil 1968 gun law of Nazi origin and thereby, upon purchasing new firearms, blindly registering our guns, our swords of just defense, enabling the coming Jesuit-controlled white fascist military dictator to ultimately take them from us, making our annihilation sure, pursuant to the Council of Trent. 15. Committing a multitude of personal sins, both public and private, ensuring that our annihilation will be a righteous act in the eyes of both the risen Son of God and mortal man. Far from being the benevolent educational missionary society many view the Society of Jesus as being, the Jesuit order is responsible for some of the most heinous acts in recorded history. They have battled truth and righteousness, crushed religious liberty, influenced kings, and sought to mold the course of history to carry out their own agenda. Now that the visible head of the Roman Catholic Church is himself a member of this order, the power of the Jesuit order is complete. Let all who love truth, all who love freedom, take heed and beware of the danger now facing the world in the person of Pope Francis I. Error and wickedness will ever seek to use force against truth and righteousness. Now is the time to draw close to Yahuwah, setting aside the sin that doth so easily beset, and surrender all to the Creator. He will accept all who come to him in faith. A prudent man foreseeth the evil, and hideth himself, but the simple pass on, and are punished.